Hello, welcome. Today I've got a pair of shifters to work on, the LX M563. So fun fact, in 1994 Shimano proposed 3 different models of LX shifters, the M560, 563 and 564. So the 560 had no dial indicators, the 563 which we have today was more or less the same as the M564. The only difference I can actually tell is that the M564, you can work on the levers, you can remove them, whereas these are riveted. Work on this side, the left side, the 3-speed side today, and I'll do a second part on the 7-speed side. So to begin, I'm going to remove this barrel adjuster. We're going to want the spring inside to be untensioned to max. I believe it's on 1. Both of these shifters have the same problem. They're not shifting up properly or down. I can't remember. Yeah, this one's very sloppy. In fact, it's not even going to number 3. So next we're going to remove this bolt underneath, and there's going to be a Phillips screw, and that will be a number 4 Allen key. Now we can lift off this cover. You can see on the interior it's old sticky grease. We're going to first remove this nut. It's going to be a number 10, and it's going to be coming off clockwise. There's a spring here on the top that we can now lift up and remove, and there's also a plate that we can do the same. Try and put everything in order, makes it easier to remember when we're going to assemble it back together again. See if I can lift that with my finger. Yeah. I'm going to lift up this lever. There's a pull and a nylon bushing here that we can also take off. To take off that pull, you're going to need something sharp to just get behind that small little circlip. Now lift that off, and there'll be a spring. And there's another clip that we're going to need to take off. And this should be able to lift up now. Underneath here there's a return spring that we need to take off. I've just unlatched it. There's that hook part here to remove. We can now lift up the last lever. We can take out this plastic ring seal. Let's remove the mechanism from the actual body. There's this spring here to take off. It's very sticky. There you go. I think we can lift that up. Lift up that first pull. And now the second one, I'm just going to pull this back a little bit. There you go. And I'm going to lift that up, but it's very hard to remove. No wonder it was not shifting well. Let's take off that sprocket part now. Small bushing. And finally the cam. And the spring. I'm going to clean everything now. I recommend that you clean the parts in small orders, small groups. Makes it easier to put it back together again. So I'll let you get on with that, and I'm going to do the same thing, clean it. Right, so I've given the parts a clean. I do want to just point out that when I was finally cleaning up the parts, there's a a few bits I missed out due to just the accumulation of gunk on all the little different bits. So there's these very skinny washer here that was actually underneath this cam part, and there's also another one that was on this part, on this spacer. So we'll find out how to put that back anyway together when I'm gonna assemble it. So let's begin. I'm gonna grease most of these parts with Teflon grease. It's my preferred one for this application. You grab some gloves. This stuff's not really nice on your skin. So let's grab that cam and the small coil spring that was underneath. So you have one part of the spring that's sticking out, and it's fairly obvious where it goes. You're going to put it in that slit, and the other tip of that spring is going to go on the left top hole here. So we're going to slide that through. And put that in. On top of that, there's a sprocket, so you know which side it's on because there's a C printed on, stamped in, and we're going to put that in this direction, like so. So the fin washer was on the top of this bushing, and we're going to place that on the main pivoting part, and you can push that through. Now there's two pulls. This one has little parts sticking out. We're going to put that onto this one. Move that out of the way and push it all the way down. And there's a second pull. You know which side because there's a dot stamped on it. The other little pivoting part. When I took this off initially, it seemed that this pull was pulled back, so you can tension up a little bit the cam with the spring, and you put it onto the last tooth, so in this position, and sitting on top of that, of the larger pull, there's a spring. One tip's a little bit longer. We're going to put that like this for now. Let's grab this lever, and it's going to go into this position. Now you have this return spring, so one part's going to be hooking onto this, and the little tip that's facing downwards is going to be going roughly here, hooked up behind the lever. If I bend it towards that, I think I've nearly got it. Next, we're going to take this plate. There's two holes which are going to run through the pivots. It's fairly self-evident where it goes. The part that's kind of going downwards, as you can see here, is going to face downwards here. Make sure that's laying nice and flat. Now there's a clip that's going to go onto this golden pivot. There's a little slot on the side, and you're going to need a plier to pry it down. Right, now for the tiny little spring that we put on that pull here, you'll see there's a little part here that needs to latch over onto the holder right there. This is always a little bit tricky to do because it's so small. So you're going to have to just keep trying until you latch it on. Got it. Okay. So you can see now it's on here. We're now going to work on the pull on this underneath the lever that we're about to install. The spring looks fairly symmetrical that we're going to put on first. It's just bent a certain way to fit the pull kind of, because it's been probably there for about 25 years. So one tip of that spring is going to go into that hole right next to there. We're going to stick that through first. and then the pull itself, and then there's a clip on the top of this holding it down. For this part, there's this plastic nylon part. Stick a bit of grease on that as well. So this lever is going to face downwards, and it's going to fit there, and you want it to go right here. Okay, now once we've done that, I'm fairly certain that the part that I didn't see when I was removing is going to go here. So there's another fin washer that's going to go on top of that copper part that you can see there. That's generally how things work with Shimano anyway. Then grab the other copper washer that fits on top, and you can push that all the way down, and make sure that spring doesn't go underneath it. And next we're going to grab this plate. It's very evident where it goes. This part that's going downwards is going to face downwards as well on here. You aim for those pivots. There's 2 holes on here and some teeth as well, so it's quite obvious where it goes. And you can push all the way down. Facing downwards is this bushing. So you need to push that in between the gap of that lever that we just installed. For here, we're going to grab this return spring. So one tip is on the outer is facing downwards, and it's going to be going onto the last 3rd hole right here. So you can see with my tip of this part. Now grab this plate, and this is going to fit perfectly onto the teeth, and the other end of that spring, we're now going to bring it, and we want it to go onto that part here. Okay, looks like it's latched on. Now underneath here, make sure that the spring is not overlapping on anything before you push it all the way down. So once you've now built this up how I've shown you to do it, what you want to do is grab that bigger pull and or push it down so that it releases the spring tension on that cam, and it's going to go all the way back to number 1, and it will be then in the right position when you're going to install it back into the lever body. That little tip there for the indicator is going to be in the right position. Ideally put a little bit of thread locker on the threading to keep in place, although it didn't look like the original one had some, but we're going to put it on anyway. And now we're going to be putting this, or tightening it up, I think it's anti-clockwise. And you don't want to do this too tight, just about the right, or you'll check anyway by re-putting it, installing it back in. You want it tight but not too tight. Be careful not to break that little plastic part, and let's see how that feels like. Yeah, okay, it looks good to me. Underneath here you had a seal. Right, so mine's working. Word of advice, this bolt right here, do not over tighten it. I would suggest putting some thread locker on the bolt so it stays in place, but don't put it so tight, because this lever right here, it seems to be like on the XTR levers that were very similar actually. As soon as you tighten this bolt too tightly, this lever here doesn't return properly. It's really slow. So yeah, don't over tighten that. So thanks for listening, and I will be following up with the 7-speed side of this shifter in a part 2. Peace out.